All right. I'm not frozen, so let's do this. What's up, everybody? This is Tom Taylor with South John Morning Post. I'm joined this afternoon by Troy Worthen, one of the top bantamweights in ONE Championship. Troy, you've got a big fight coming up, but I'm hoping you got some time to kick back a little bit over the holidays, enjoy New Year's. Did you get up to anything fun over the holidays there?
Actually, I didn't really celebrate anything. Yeah, me and my wife just stayed in, just tried to stay away from too many people. I don't want to have a failed test or anything after do this whole camp. So tried to really quarantine myself and not go out and be around too many people. Um, Definitely when I get back from the fight, we're going to go celebrate and make up for that lost time. But right now, my eyes are on the prize, and I didn't want to do anything to put that in jeopardy.
Right. I guess that's like a whole new layer of preparation you have to consider now, just like not getting COVID so you don't accidentally derail your own camp. That must be kind of an interesting challenge for you.
I mean, honestly, it's even scary to go to the gym and train right now because we have like 60 guys on the mat, and it's like any one of these guys could be positive and pass it to me. So tomorrow's my last day. I just did my COVID test today, so hopefully get it back. Everything comes back good, and I'm flying off to Singapore.
Fingers crossed for you, man. As you said, you're off to Singapore shortly. You'll be fighting Shuya Kamikubo on January 14th. I mean, how's training been going for this fight? Obviously, an interesting time to train, as you said, with this pandemic we've got going on. But how's the preparation been?
Man, training's been great. I honestly trained a little bit less than I'm accustomed to for this camp. Thought maybe I've gone through most of my career overtraining. I just have that wrestler grind in me to where I think, unless I'm dead tired, it's not enough. This camp, we try to take a little bit different approach, had a little more rest than normal, but I feel great. Cardio feels better than ever. Weight's better than normal. So it seems to be working so far. I've had great partners this entire camp. I worked with a lot of guys that fight at the highest level at bantamweight and featherweight. So I've had great partners. I've been healthy, no issues, feel great. So I'm just ready to go, man. I'm honestly sick of training at this point. I just want to fight.
I bet. And of course, you're riding the two losses currently. You've had the setbacks against Yusuf Sajilayev and John Lineker. I mean, having had some time to sort of digest those losses, I know they're never easy, but how do you feel about them now that some time has passed?
I mean, honestly, for me, it is what it is. I'm not in the sport for a pretty record. I think I didn't have my best fight against Yusuf. It was honestly, I think, a very boring performance for both of us. Not much happened. And I think, honestly, the decision probably could have went either way. I got hit with some decent shots at the end of each round, and maybe that swayed the judges. I think I had a lot more control. I think I did a lot of damage to his leg, which obviously doesn't look as cool as a punch to the face. So maybe that wasn't counted as much. But I just think that wasn't a great performance from anybody. It was my first time, ONE Championship traveling from the United States to Singapore and fighting. So trying to get accustomed to the travel and sleep and all that stuff. And there was like a million excuses, but not a great fight. The Lineker fight, I risked it for the biscuit. I took the number one contender on 12 hours notice or 24 hours notice, signed the contract the day before, and it didn't go my way. I think the fight was going well. I was definitely letting him get off too much. I should have stood my ground a little bit more, but with the preparation I had and the style I was planning on fighting, I think it was going well until, I finally got comfortable, honestly, in the fight, and then got slept with just the only straight punch he threw the entire fight, honestly. But, I think we fight that fight over 5 times. I probably win the next 5. I think he just got me on an off night, and it is what it is, I think I'll take that fight again on 24 hours notice this fight if it pops up. I'm not scared of these guys. That result doesn't define who I am as a martial artist. So not too worried about it, to be honest.
Right. Well, you mentioned that you took that fight on very short notice, and it was, a really exciting fight while it lasted. You made sure of that, you really were willing to trade with him and stuff. It was a great fight. Having said all that, I take it there's no real regrets accepting that fight on short notice. You kind of take it as a positive in hindsight.
I mean, the brain damage I incurred is probably a regret, but it can't be good for you.
Worry about that later.
But, I'm the type of person I'm always going to take the risk. I'm trying to make cool memories, have cool experiences, and just live life to the fullest. And, who else can say they fought John Lineker on 24 hours notice to be the main event? It didn't go my way. That's part of the sport. You have guys like Conor McGregor, who everybody thought was the best in the world. Now he's on like a 2-loss streak, and everybody thinks he's trash. This sport is very fickle. We don't get to compete as much as other sports. So when you take a loss, it is a big deal. But I don't think I still think I'm the best in the world. And like I've said before, maybe that makes me delusional because obviously I lost my last 2 fights. But I think that's just part of this game. You have an off night sometimes, Demetrius just got knocked out too, and everybody thinks he's the GOAT. So not too concerned with those results. I'm definitely going to take that challenge every single time it presents itself. So if I fly into Singapore this time and they ask me to be in the main event on short notice against somebody and move up to featherweight to do it, then I'll do that. That's a cool experience and it's a cool story to tell when I'm getting older.
Definitely. That's a great attitude. Let me ask you one more question about John Lineker while we're on the topic. He's expected to get the next title shot now against Bibiano Fernandez. Having been in there with him, how do you see that fight going?
Honestly, I just think it depends on who imposes their will. If Bibiano can get the takedown, which is hard, John has a very low center of gravity. He's a short guy. He's really stocky to try and get to his legs, and he holds his hands low because he's just bombing hooks from his hips. So you have to be tricky to get in there and maybe push him against the cage and just make it dirty. But if Bibiano can get him to the ground, I think he probably does submit him. His jiu-jitsu is just so good. But if John can impose his game well and just make it a brawl, he's probably going to end up knocking out Bibiano. So this comes down to who can implement their game plan. I think it's probably a little bit higher of a chance that John gets the knockout just because Bibiano doesn't have the best footwork to work his way in and out. So probably John bombing those hooks, he probably catches one, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bibiano slips in a choke or catches with an armbar.
Yeah, it's definitely a great matchup. But yeah, let's talk about your fight. How about that? Shuya Kamikubo. Obviously, he's he's been around ONE Championship for a while. Were you aware of him for a little while, or was this the first you heard of him when they offered you the fight?
Well, actually, I met him before I even got signed. So we were both at the Evolve MMA tryouts trying to get on the Evolve team. So I had met him there. We didn't actually get any rounds together. So that's actually kind of weird because I think I trained with everybody that was there except for him. But yeah, we've been on each other's radar for a long time. And obviously I just had a fight camp for him in the last one. Honestly, though, as much as I like the guy and I think, he's very good at what he does, I'm just not too concerned with anything that he brings to the table. I think as far as the grappling goes, I'm probably the better grappler. I think I'm the better athlete. I'm definitely the better striker. So it just comes down to, do I go in there and impose my will, or, do I end up with another excuse and say it was an off night? So we're going to find out in a week.
Right. Well, as you said, you've known about him for a while. You were expected to fight him before. It didn't happen. You've had a lot of time to kind of study tape and look at this guy. Is there anything that stands out that, you really feel like you need to be worried about in this matchup?
I need to make sure he can't make it a boring fight and hold me against the cage for 15 minutes. But other than that, I train with some really, really good grapplers, and nobody just holds me down. I train with some of the best black belts in the world, some of the best MMA ground and pound artists, and nobody, even bigger weight classes, just holds me there. So I don't see his style being very effective against me, but, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's better at it than I think. So if I just impose my will and don't let him get to what he's good at, which is just holding on to people, then I think it should be a pretty exciting night. And I get my name back in the win column.
He's had, I think he's on an 8-fight win streak right now, but you don't really hear people talk about him when they talk about bantamweight contenders in ONE Championship. Do you feel like people sort of are sleeping on him a little bit? Has he sort of fallen through the cracks a little bit when people talk about the contenders in this division?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a product of his style. He doesn't do anything flashy. There's not a lot of big finishes. He's not going out there and just mauling people. He just kind of grinds them out. So the fans don't really take too much note of that. But, you have to give him props. You know exactly what he's going to do, and he goes in there and he does it to everybody. I do think he hasn't had the highest level of competition, so I'm probably the best guy he's fought so far. So if he passes this test, then all praise to him. But I think it's gonna be a rough night for him, and I'm gonna end up taking that ranking.
He does have a lot of momentum one way or the other. Do you feel like, this is a sort of a perfect matchup for you right now, being that you're riding some losses, you can kind of beat this guy who's on a streak and steal a little bit of that momentum, so to speak, and kind of get back to where you want to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely with him being, I think 3 or 4 in the world, it puts my name right back in that mix. I think right now there's probably a bunch of people that were high on me that aren't so high on me anymore, and a bunch of people that think, oh, he just had like a flash in the pan, couple wins, and he's not that good or whatever people may think. I'm gonna go prove and show to a lot of people that I just had some bad nights, and I'm still one of the best guys in the world. And I know that already. I don't really need to prove that. I feel it every day in the training. I've trained with the world champions. I've trained with people like Worthen ONE. I know how I do in the room with the best guys in the world. So for me, it's just go out there and have fun and, do what I love, and the results will come. But I definitely think I'm going to put my name back in the talks with the top guys in the division.
You mentioned the doubters. I mean, there will always be doubters, and they tend to get a little bit louder when you lose, but does that motivate you at all? Is that something you think about ahead of this fight, like shutting these people up, silencing these doubters, and showing them that you still got a lot to give?
I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say like I didn't see some people talking shit on comments and stuff like that. But to me, it's not a big deal. Like they have no effect on my life. I don't meet these people. I don't interact with them really. So I'm not even that big on social media. So for me, I'm kind of indifferent towards it, but yeah, it's nice to just stick it to people when they don't believe in you. So at the end of the day, as much as I don't really care, it'll be a fun thing to do.
Shifting gears a little bit, your division is just amazing right now. I mean, not just in ONE Championship, but the bantamweight division, internationally, worldwide, is just so hot right now. Would you say, as somebody that's part of this division, that it's the best division in the world at the moment?
Not being biased because I am a bantamweight, I think it's hard to argue that it's not. I think it's the deepest division out of all organizations. I think the best fighters in the world are there. And I think it's kind of a product of just the rest of the sporting world. Bigger guys have different outlets. If you're a 155 or 170 and up, you can go play American football. You can go do all these different things, pro wrestling. There's not really a dominant sport for the little guys. So you're having the best athletes come train martial arts and fight. And there's no other outlet for us really. You don't really see 5'5" tennis players. So all the best guys are coming and learning martial arts and fighting and competing. So I definitely think it's the deepest. And for me, that makes it the hardest to compete in. I watch guys sometimes on the weekends in the UFC at 185, and I'm like, their technique is atrocious. Like, how'd they get to this level? I don't really see those kind of fights at bantamweight.
This may be a dumb question, but it's something I've wondered about. Being in a division like bantamweight or lightweight's another good example where it's just so stacked with top talent. Is there a part of you that ever kind of wonders, like, damn, I wish I was a middleweight because I could just, the fights would maybe be a little bit less, it's a lower level of competition, perhaps, fewer tough tests. But then here you are at 135, and every single fight is just against this killer. Is there part of you that wishes that you weighed 100 pounds more so you could maybe fight some easier opposition?
I've had that conversation a lot of times, and we kind of joke about it, like, oh, it'd be so much fun to be a heavyweight. You don't have to cut weight, and the fights are way easier, and the guys are all trash. You just have to be a good athlete, and no offense to my heavyweight teammates and stuff like that. It's just, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, I do this because I like to challenge myself, so I don't mind it being the deepest division. It just proves that much more when I dominate it and become the world champion.
Right. Well, obviously one of the perks of being in a deep division is that there's always a lot of really exciting options. Having said that, is there anybody, assuming this fight with Shuya goes your way, that you'd like to fight next?
Whoever's next. Yeah, there's no name on my mind. I think every guy in bantamweight and ONE Championship is a fun fight. There's a bunch of high level talent that are just getting signed that people really don't even know about. And there's a lot of Asian fighters that, especially the American market, have no idea about, like the Team Lakai guys and stuff. So there's a lot of fun fights out there. Whoever they call up next for me is whoever it is, when that name comes across the counter and I sign the contract, then I'll start preparing for them. But yeah, I don't really care who it is. I plan on beating them and stepping towards that world title.
Right. Well, that certainly kind of leads into my next question perfectly. What does a perfect 2022 look like for you? What are you hoping to accomplish before this year's out?
I just want to get a few wins, get back in the win column, make some money. It's been a rough couple of years trying to get fights, and especially when you're losing, you get half your paycheck. People think it's easy to go, oh, you fight 15 minutes and you might make $20,000. Oh, it's so easy, but it doesn't quite work out that way, especially when you pay out your gym, and some people have managers and coaches and all these other things. So I definitely would like to get active and get a bunch of fights, stay healthy, and just become a better martial artist. I don't care too much about, getting to the world championship at 2022. I think I'll get there eventually, but 2022 for me, perfect. Probably get 4 fights in, have a good year, make some new experiences and more memories, and, just live life. People forget that professional athletes are just human beings, and we just want to have a normal life and enjoy ourselves too. So, I would like to be successful in my professional career, but I'd also like to be successful in my personal life for 2022.
And what does that kind of personal success look like for you? What do you like to do, outside of the cage? How do you reward yourself for all this hard work?
Food challenges, eating atrocious amounts of food and just feeling like a fat pig. No, I do that, but
that's a real sport right there.
Yeah, it is no joke, especially when you're in the gym the next day. But, I want to grow as a person. I would like to, start some new endeavors, some new side businesses, have not all my, income be reliant on me performing as an athlete. And I love coaching, man. I love passing on what I know as a skill set in my martial arts. So I would definitely like to take a few guys under my wing and coach a little bit more. Just overall, just enjoy life and not be so caught up in what's the next fight. I've kind of lived my life so focused on who's the next name, what's the next step, that I haven't really slowed down and just enjoyed life, which this past year has kind of taught me to do. So I'm looking at getting better at that and just I don't really have anything else. I'm so focused on the Shuya Kamikubo fight right now that I'm probably being a hypocrite, but I'm not thinking about anything else.
That's, I think, probably the right move. He's a tough guy, as you said. Let me ask you one more question then before I let you go. Speaking of this fight you've got on the horizon, is there any particular way you see it going? Any prediction for this fight?
It's hard not to see myself knocking him out. I just think he comes in too square. I don't see him being able to take me down. I don't want to be arrogant, but it's hard for me to see this going any other way than me getting a knockout. But I guess we'll find out in a week.
Absolutely. One way or the other. I can't wait to watch it happen. Thank you so much for the time, Troy. It's been a pleasure as always. Troy Worthen, ladies and gentlemen, back in action on January 14th.
Thank you, man. Hope you had a good New Year, and I hope you enjoy the fight.